You are listening to Faithless Brewing, a Magic the Gathering podcast for the Spike Rogue. Each week we design new decks for tournament play. We put our creations to the test and share our findings on the air. Today we are joined once again by Arun Jiggy Wiggy Singh and Brian Madden of the Serum Visions podcast to share our findings with token strategies in Modern and Pioneer. We tested 5 token decks, but did we crack the code on Jinnie Fay? Find out the truth about cats and dogs on this edition of Faithless Brewing. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to the Faithless Brewing podcast. I am your host, Dan Schriever, also known as Cavedan Online. I am joined once again by the fabulous gang from the Serum Visions podcast, Arun Jiggy Wiggy Singh and Brian Madden. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hello.
Hello, hello. Welcome from Boston, East Coast now. Brian and I in different time zones.
Sad.
You know, it hasn't happened before, actually.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, is this like a reunion in some way? I mean, not actually, obviously.
No, I mean, it's a pretty good reunion for sure.
I got a little bit sad about the idea of you were both on the West Coast before, and now you're flying all the way over.
I know. Now we just gotta get Brian East Coast, and then we'll be back at the full circle.
That's a hard sell. Hard sell. My wife doesn't agree with winter, or winter doesn't agree with her, and I generally don't agree with most of the South, so I don't know. It's tough to make blanket statements like that, but I don't do well with heat or humidity, so we're kind of in an awkward position. You find me that perfect weather on the East Coast, and maybe we could talk.
I mean, it's pretty fair. The humidity here is like absolutely disgusting. It's like I did not miss in Oregon, but it's like 80 degrees in the morning. It's like, what the hell, man? Sure, maybe it'll still be like 85 degrees max in the day, but still, 80 degrees and humid is hot, gross and hot.
Mm-hmm. Been there.
So, last time you were here, Jiggy, you were getting ready to move for a big move to Boston, starting a new job.
Oh, yeah.
Congrats on that.
Thank you.
Have you had a chance to check out the local magic scene?
No, I haven't. I was actually, Brian made a great point. I hadn't actually touched Magic at all, just because, work's been so busy and trying to just get through things. I hadn't really, I've thought about it, but haven't really touched it until last night, to try and get caught up a little bit for this podcast. But, I think Brian mentioned the same thing. He hasn't played much time, but I still managed to find time to order, $500 in singles from Double Masters. I'm only human, had to get those Fallout Ren 6s.
Oof, yeah.
And then the Fallout Force Negation. I think that's really all I got, but they're quite expensive. Oh, and the Supreme Judgments or Supreme Verdicts, because I have my loner deck is Kurihira 4-color control, just like the non-Yorion version. And that's already almost extended art fully anyways, and the Ren 6s and the Supreme Verdicts keep just pushing that through. So it's soon going to be almost full art, which probably says something more about recent card designs than it does other things, but it's pretty sweet and it's gonna look beautiful.
Yeah, Kahira 4-color Kahira is the budget version of Money Pile, just because you don't have to buy 20 extra cards.
Yeah. I mean, let me tell you, it's not budget, that's for sure. Especially when you get everything full art. The Solitudes on my Elementals. Ren 6s now, Force of Negations, boom, boom, boom. Adds up quite quickly. No surprise.
So just curious, Brian, what did you end up picking up from Double Masters?
Oh boy, I got a whole bunch of stuff. I apparently didn't have a single damnation. At least I didn't have one tracked in Goldfish. So I now have an additional playset, or I am +4 damnations. I got some Supreme Verdicts, Surgical Extractions, which that takes me up to 7 copies of that card. But that's one of those ones that when it finds its way into decks, it wants to be in multiple sideboards at the same time.
Respect.
And I, much like the good doctor here, like to have a loner deck handy. So, they came down low enough. I thought it was worth having extra copies. And then I am purchasing all of the Eldrazi Titans that I didn't already have. So I already had my playset of Emrakul's, but I picked up the rest of the Kozileks that I didn't have, and I think it's going to be good with those. I don't see Ulamog.
Playset of Emrakul's?
I already had a playset, yeah.
You mean like 4?
Yep.
Oh, the Promised End. No, this is... Why do you need a playset of Eldrazi Titans for? Normally it's just one, right?
I don't know. I like to have 4 of things, because when you go to build that deck and you realize you want the second or the third or the fourth copy and you don't have it, it's frustrating,
Or
it's
you
frustrating.
Just want to register 4 decks in tournaments so nobody loses to mill.
There you go. Well, and didn't some of the earlier Indomitable Creativity play like 2 copies or whatever? You can't just have 2 copies of a card. That's weird.
So for me, it's like, maybe I'll just buy one. It'd be nice to have. And then, maybe I'll put that in a commander deck or something. And it's like, well, actually, it's in a commander deck, so I should probably get a second one. It's like, okay, well, now I've got 2. I might as well get a playset.
That's exactly. You get it.
But there's still one in the commander deck, so actually I need another one. So let me get a 5th one. So I have a playset plus the one in the commander deck. Just repeat this.
This is how you end up with 7 copies of Surgical Extraction, yeah.
Exactly. Precisely.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think right now I have 7 copies of Ren and 6. Or actually, I have 8. But you can probably offload 4 pretty easily, honestly. I'm not super worried. Anyways, I need to wait until Double Masters, kind of goes out, and then the price goes up again, then I can sell it. Hashtag MTG Finance.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, well, what do we have in store for today? We got a great show coming up today. It is our 3rd collaboration with Serum Visions on our new monthly project, which means we are wrapping up Project Jinnie Fay, and we've also got a whole new slate of cards. These have been nominated by people in our Discord, in the Faithless family. We're going to go through all the nominees. People have written up their little pitch, trying to put the best foot forward, make a case for these, and I think we have like 16 cards suggested this time, which is the most ever, which is awesome. So super excited for that. But before we get to those, we should do our housekeeping really quick, which is to say that if you like the podcast and want to send us some support, you can do so by joining our Discord at patreon.com/faithlessbrewing. That gets you access to our Discord community. It also gets you little perks. For example, you get the ability to vote on cards. If you want to nominate cards to have them on the ballot, that is a benefit of joining the Discord as well. We also have content going up on YouTube, trying to get some video content out there. So don't forget to check that out. Give us that like and subscribe, and more importantly, tell us what you would like to see. All right, that being said, let's talk about Jinnie Fay Jetmir's second. So Brian, I'm going to start with you. When you look at Jinnie Fay, obviously this is a token card. What do you see here first? Like, where does your mind go?
My like level 0 is green-white tokens, and I think that's just because on one of the Serum Visions episodes, I did pursue some green-white tokens decks, and I thought they were pretty fun.
Oh yeah. And you convinced me to try my green-white mentor tokens deck, Arun. It's so good. It's so good, you should try it. That was terrible.
Well, okay, so I think we're maybe jumping into the meat of it here, but these token decks, in my experience, and I think your experience as well, Arun, are that if you hit all of the right cards, and your opponent does not hit all of their right cards, it's spectacular, right? You have some really explosive turns, or you pump out a bunch of tokens and they just can't keep up, and it's great. And I think that this card falls very firmly into that camp. If you build your deck in a way to, exploit it or make use of it, and you draw all the right cards and you have an opportunity to do your thing, this card is sweet. I never actually made any 3/1 green dog creature tokens, but the cats were great. My feline friends definitely got me a few wins. But, the downside to this card is that it has no ETB, and if you are not getting a token out of it the turn you play it, it feels really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so Jinnie Fay is a 3-drop, right? 3/3 for 3, sure, but playing it on turn 3 and passing the turn, you feel like you're a very bad Magic player.
Yes,
It's just
absolutely.
like, oh, come on, man, like, really? And then they untap and kill you, or they do something like...
Yeah.
Yeah, it does not feel good at all to play Jinnie Fay and not use the ability, like, multiple times.
Yeah, and my initial inclination was to go for something, surprise, surprise, with somebody like Sai or a Sahili, to make tokens, have a recurring token maker that was on the board, and, maybe I could do something like drop a Mox Amber and, get tokens that way, like play Jenny, drop the Mox Amber, get a token, boom. But that means that you already have a Sai or a Sahili in play, so now you've got competing 3-drops. Long story short, I tried a bunch and it just doesn't work. But what does work and what did work were trying to ramp it out. So I ended up with a red-green deck. I'm looking at 4 Gilded Goose, 4 Glimmer Bairn. I'll put an asterisk next to that. Don't roll your eyes at me yet, Arun.
Oh yeah.
3 Jinnie Fay, 4 Prosperous Innkeeper, 4 Ragavan, 4 Vildarin Epicure, 4 Sapperling Migration, 4 Strike It Rich, 4 Court of Calling, 4 Batterbone, and then 20 lands, including 1 Gingerbread Cabin, I think is the only notable land there.
Alright, hold on. I just gotta say, it's not the Bairn token dude that I'm concerned with in this list, Brian.
Really?
Definitely.
I'm curious. What's your concern in this one?
Probably the rest of it.
Okay.
Quickly looking up Glimmer Bairn style. Like, what are we talking about here? 1/2 for 1 creature. Oof. Sacrifice a token. Glimmer Bairn gets +2/+2 until end of turn.
It's actually like kind of. It can be nutsos. I had a Academy Manufactor Fay of the whatever Modern Horizons or Gift of the Fay Modern Horizons 2 draft with Glimmer Bairn as a win condition, and it's for I have a lot of respect for that card if you can pull it off. So that's not what I'm concerned about.
Well, I could definitely see the thought process here, right? So, like, one of the weird things about Jinnie Fay is that all she does is upgrade a token.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you really need, like, the crappiest, worst tokens you can find, and then she will upgrade them to something better. And Glimmer Bairn is kind of the same logic, right? If I'm going to fill my deck with crappy, low-value tokens, why not turn that into something that actually wins the game, which Glimmer Bairn, in theory, can do. I have no idea if that works out in practice. But yeah, like, the way that, like, if you start from that, is like, okay, my mission is to find the cheapest, crappiest tokens, then I think it makes sense to look for cards like Strike It Rich, Epicure, and I guess Ragavan Treasures. I don't know. Those don't really count. But Gilded Goose.
The issue with Glimmer Bairn in this deck is, you need multiple tokens created at once to really make Glimmer Bairn better than, just like what's the difference between +2/+2 and like a 2/2 haste, they're pretty much the same thing. So you need effects that create multiple tokens, but these mostly look to be single token creating effects. So you're not going to be able to go positive up on damage with Glimmer Bairn.
Yeah, my thought with Glimmer Bairn was, I likely want my food tokens around after I've cast my turn 1 Gilded Goose, right? Ragavan, treasure tokens, Strike It Rich tokens, these are all things that are useful to me in the early game, but late game start to have less value. And so Glimmer Bairn was there as a hedge against not drawing my Jinnie Fay, or having an abundance of tokens down already. And my thought was, my original thought was actually Arcbound Ravager. I wanted something that could eat up, because most of these end up being artifacts, I wanted something that could eat up the leftover tokens that weren't doing me any good, and could maybe skew combat math in weird ways. And I will say, actually, the Glimmer Bairn performed. The Glimmer Bairn definitely won me some games. I had some combat lines where, I actually had 2 Glimmer Bairns on the field. My opponent could block one of them. It was just a foregone conclusion that I would win the game, because no matter which one they blocked, I would just pump the other one. And then, I also had some favorable trades. An opponent thought that they were getting cute by attacking in with a Ragavan, to kill my Glimmer Bairn, which was my only creature on board. But I had like 2 food tokens, and I don't think they realized that I could pump it and save my Glimmer Bairn. So I did I did pull some sneaky tricks, although I think that was probably more a side effect of my opponent not reading Glimmer Bairn and seeing just like a mopey 1-2 instead of the Glimmer Bairn itself being great. But anytime you have the ability to, kind of throw some combat tricks, even if they're on board combat tricks like this, I think you can do some cool stuff.
All right, so you got red-green tokens. You had your 3 Jinnie Fay. You had your 4 Glimmer Bairns as like additional copies of Jinnie Fay, one might say.
Mm-hmm.
And the Tutor's Court of Calling. So you actually can find Jinnie fairly consistently.
Yep.
If I'm understanding the deck list right, that's most of the power is when Jinnie is in play, right? Like you're not going to win a lot of games by just beating down with Epicures and Batterbones.
No.
So this is really like how good is Jinnie and how consistently can I get her in play. So what did you find when you took this for a spin?
It was, so my overall result was a 3-2. I almost marked it as a 2-3 because my first win was against Blue-Red Murktide, and I lost the first game, and then my opponent disconnected and never reconnected. So I'm going to give that to them, even though I did technically win the match. I don't think that I would have won. They mopped me up. There was like, they had an answer to everything that I played. I basically had 0 board and 0 cards in hand at the end of the first game, and I suspect that the subsequent games would have gone the same way. I beat Ad Nauseam, but I think they lost to their own deck. Sometimes they get you, sometimes they don't. I did have a particularly good game 2 in that one where I had a turn 4 goldfish, basically. So if you can get Jinnie out early and you can make some tokens, you can actually do a lot of damage pretty quickly. My third match, this one actually was the most exciting. We're in game 3, opponent has 4 life and a Blood Moon on board. I had 2 life. I had a Cinder Vines on the field from my sideboard and enough mana and green creatures to cast a Court of Calling even with the Blood Moon on board. They tried to bolt me, and with the bolt on the stack, they took 1 from Cinder Vines. I courted for a Vidalian Epicure to deal 1 damage because it deals 1 when it enters the battlefield, and then I finished them with the Cinder Vines activation. So that felt like a moral victory also because,
Easily.
it was a Murktide player, or blue-red control. I don't know, the lists seem very similar to me. And then I lost to Is It Control. It felt like a repeat of how the first match was going. They had answers for everything, just kind of cleaned my clock. And then I lost to Classic Jund. Turns out when the opponent is able to 1-for-1 you and 2-for-1 you the entire game and force you to discard, it's really hard when you have a bunch of really bad cards.
Yeah, no, this if you're playing Strike It Rich in your value deck against Jund, I got bad news for you.
Yeah. But in spite of the results, I like to say I go in looking to learn things because, you always take something away then, even if you don't win. And I was kind of surprised here. There were a couple things that stuck out to me. I was a little skeptical of Cord going into this, but it turned out Cord was great. I often had plenty of stuff on board to Cord for a Jinnie on like turn 3 even. Sometimes a little bit earlier if you have the Saproling migration and you make enough treasures and everything just kind of plays out exactly right. So I was pretty consistently having Jinnie out, and in a pinch, I was able to Cord for that Voldaren Epicure and win a game. So there's a little bit of that toolbox aspect, although I didn't actually have any toolbox cards. I think that if I were going to change the deck up, I would probably consider adding some of those toolbox Cord targets. But that said, every time I went to Cord, I thought, is there something I could be cording for that I would rather have? And the answer was generally I wanted Jinnie, because I really wanted to get those cats online. I wanted to start, pulling ahead with some damage or putting some pressure on the opponent. I've said in the past that Strike It Rich is like aggressively mediocre, even though I had expected great things of it in spoiler season. This deck actually was the deck where it felt best, because this was the only deck I've played where I actually wanted to flash it back. Turns out you don't often want to flash back for 3 mana a card that will produce you a single treasure. this was the exception to that. It was like an extra card in hand that the opponent didn't really care about, right? A lot of times opponents see stuff in your graveyard and they want to aggressively exile stuff from your yard so that you don't have much to do, from the yard. And this was one of those things where, like, I don't know anybody in their right mind that would have brought in graveyard hate against me, but being able to play one of those early and then flash it back later to turn into a cat or a dog was actually pretty nice. I thought Batterbone was going to be cool. Turns out not great. It was solid with Jinnie out, but I think I would rather have maybe some more of the 2-mana, 2-token producers or something like that. Saproling Migration was okay. I thought I was going to be able to kick it, which is why I played that particular card. I thought, if I'm playing a deck that might be able to hardcast a Chord of Calling, I might also be able to kick the Saproling Migration. It never came to that, but in general, being able to make 2 tokens either to convoke a Chord with or just to make two cats with was great. And then the Glimmer Bairn actually ended up being a solid alternate win con in the cases where I didn't get a Jinnie out. So overall, when things came together, it was fun. But as we all know, as Magic players, things don't come together as often as you would hope. So I can't say I would recommend this deck for anything other than some fun level play or maybe an FNM if you're feeling real spicy. But there's some components of it that surprised me and some things that I expected to like that I didn't like, such as the Batterbone.
Yeah, I appreciate the deep cuts on this list. I mean, I was intrigued by the Living Weapon with Jinnie Fay. I mean, that's such a nice, like, that's the worst token you could imagine, a 0/0 germ. But, like, I couldn't come up with a way to convince myself to, like, put Flare Husks and Batterbones and Barb Spikes and stuff into a deck. If we knew Jinnie Fay was going to be in play and alive, then yeah. So it's kind of like, there's one style of brewing where we take like a good deck and put the card we're testing into that good deck, and then we come back and like, oh, the deck was fine, but like the new card was the worst card in the deck. And you've gone the complete opposite way. You've built a deck where the new card, Jinnie, is by far the most important card. And the rest of the deck is like so dependent, so weak on it that you like literally cannot do anything unless Jinnie's in play. And I guess you get a clearer picture there of like exactly how much Jinnie can do.
Yeah, and I think that she ends up being one of those cards, like so many other cards, that she's going to get better over time. We're going to get some card someday that allows you to make tokens. Imagine something like a young Pyromancer that can proc off of a Mox Amber, like a 2-mana token maker that doesn't require specifically instants or sorceries or something like that. And when that day comes, Jinnie gets a little bit better because now you've got your token maker down before Jinnie comes down, hopefully.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's sounding pretty optimistic based on my one league with Jinnie Fay. I'm unsure. I mean, there's just so many 3-drops, just like, and all Jinnie Fay can do is if you have to already have something on and then make some things, all you get are a bunch of hasty creatures, best case scenario. It's just, I don't know, like, is there really, I mean, I guess I'll go into my thoughts in a moment or in also my experience, but I don't know. I'm unsure if Jinnie Fay is actually going to get better with printing other things, I think the big issue is that Jinnie Fay is 3 mana for a 3/3 with no ET, like you just said, with no ETB, that then requires something else to start getting value from. And it doesn't even give you card advantage, it just gives you card quality, most likely. So with all those things together, I'm unsure if Jinnie Fay is ever going to actually get better.
Well, I think that she could be a solid engine piece. And again, this is all about like the exact right cards have to be printed, right? She makes green creatures, which is possibly something relevant. There were a couple of times where I had a Jinnie, I got a single cat out of her, my opponent killed the Jinnie, and the fact that the cat was green was relevant for casting a Chord of Calling for the next Jinnie. I don't know. I could see her as part of like sort of an engine deck. And I will say that the games where I would chord for her on the opponent's end step and then got to untap with mana, like a lot of mana, and actually start producing cats, those turns were super explosive. So she definitely has power. being able to make 4/2/2s with haste on a turn is solid.
I guess, slightly pushing back on that. How what would make Chord for Jenny better than Chord for Yawgmoth, in that spot? Obviously they're very different decks, like we are, I agree that, we're trying to brew to see what we can do. But among that constraint, I think it is worthwhile to acknowledge that, Jinnie Fay is cool, but, just like it's probably coding for Yawgmoth is better.
Yeah, well, that's almost certainly true. Because just like Jinnie, Yawgmoth is only going to get better with more cards printed.
Yeah, I just had to make sure you weren't delirious. I had to make sure you still had a little bit of head on your shoulder, that, you weren't drinking the Kool-Aid too hard. I've seen a lot of people drinking Kool-Aid recently in the startup, so, there's that.
Nope, I fully accept. I mean, at the end of the day, she's a 3-mana 3/3 with no enters the battlefield ability, so she only, her ceiling is only so high, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big part of it. And we've talked in previous weeks about some of the lists proposed by people in our Discord. And they're definitely trying to solve that problem specifically with cards like Elvish Warmaster, with Gala Greeters, Lona's Cryptozoologist. These are all 2-drops that can come down first so that the turn you play Jinnie, you're immediately getting that trigger right away. And if we get more cards like that, yeah, I could imagine Jinnie getting a little bit better. Actually, for me, the thing that struck me was there weren't that many cards that produced a bunch of really crappy tokens.
Yeah.
There isn't a token bad enough yet. I thought maybe food or blood was the worst token, but they're still a little bit too expensive. We don't have a card that's just 1 mana, make 2 really, really awful tokens, like a decayed zombie, but 0/1 or something like that. Because any game object is dangerous, so they're really resistant to printing cards like that.
Yeah.
So if you really want to make a bunch of tokens at once, you have to do something really weird like Kuldotha Rebirth or pay a lot of mana for something. But if at some point in the future they come up with a really, truly terrible token, just germs without equipment to attach them to or something, and you can have cards that just make a bunch of those, then I could see Jinnie becoming suddenly the most exciting card.
Yeah, that's fair. An interesting point for sure.
Any case, I'm getting ahead of myself. So Arun, why don't you tell us about the list that you played?
Yeah, so I, kind of last second say, got time for this league, want to jump in on it. As Dan, what should I do? Just go to the channel, go to the Jinnie Fay channel, find the Pioneer deck. The first one I came across, this was from in our Discord. It's Green White Yorion, Jinnie Fay, and Pioneer. It's by Tombocatcher. And it is, quite interesting. Sometimes green-white is very, fair and relatively weak, I think. But sometimes you just want to do that. Sometimes I get bitten by the green-white bug. This is a Yorion Pioneer deck. And just green-white tokens with some interesting stuff. There's 4 Arboreal Grazer, 2 Brood Monitor, 4 Displacer, 4 Gilded Goose, 4 Jinnie Fay, 4 Prosperous Innkeeper, 4 Regal Caracal, the 5-mana 3/3 Cat Lord. And then 4 Thraben Inspector, 4 Legion's Landing, 3 Oath of Nissa, 4 Teleportation Circle, which was, quite interesting. 3 in a white enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, exile up to 1 target artifact or creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield. So it's the most expensive blink ever that happens once a turn. But, I just want to see what happened. 31 green-white lands, 4 Eldritch Evolution to help you find your Jinnie Fay, and 4 Asika's Chariot. And honestly, this kind of felt like green-white Winota, except instead of Winota, you have Jinnie Fay. And it turns out Jinnie Fay is for sure not a Winota. I had a very solid 1/4. I actually kind of was a little optimistic. I started off 2-0ing. I crushed a blue-green, what is the Emerge? What's the Emerge Eldrazi that taps everything? It was a blue-green one.
Elder Deep Fiend.
Yeah, blue-green Elder Deep Fiend, which was, kind of interesting and curious, but, I managed to get Jinnie Fay down, and they didn't have any removal, which was probably why I managed to win. And, if Jinnie Fay's down, it's pretty nutty. You get Jinnie Fay into your cat thing, into the Regal Caracal, and now you have, a whole bunch of 3/3 haste lifelinkers, which is pretty sweet. I will say there was some slight pressure where, because this deck was actually very good at just making the tokens, in general, you wanted them to be the 3/1 Vigilance Dogs, because 2/2s were kind of, they just attack and die. But then if you draw if you draw your Regal Caracal, you're kind of stuck because you would have rather had 3/3 hasty Lifelinkers, and they don't get the bonus because you're making dogs and not cats. So that was some interesting tension for sure. And then so I won these two. You can only tap 4 cats at a time with the Elder Fiend, and I had a bunch of cats because I had Eldrazi Displacer and Brood Monitor, which was pretty sweet. Apparently, there's an infinite life combo in here somewhere. I don't think I ever got to see it. But then round 2, I faced Grixis Vampires, and I got absolutely crushed. It was like not even close, and their deck was like pretty garbage, which made me pretty suspect about my own deck for sure. And then I faced Blue Red Phoenix, and those 2 games were not even games. And then I faced a Blue Red Prowess, with the Ledger Shredder stuff, and unsurprisingly, those games were not games. And then I faced just a mono white deck, and once again I lost because they had removal. And I had some fun turns, like I don't know, it just felt like this was Winota with a much worse Winota. Which is, like turn 1 Arboreal Grazer, turn 2 Eldritch Evolution my Arboreal Grazer into a Jinnie Fay, hope to get lucky and not have it die, and then next turn, maybe drop 2 token creators, make 2/2/2 haste, and just, it was fun. I enjoyed it, but I got absolutely crushed.
So something you just said there, you said that they had removal and so you lost. And for a token deck, that's a little bit concerning, right? Like, I thought one of the reasons to play tokens is that you're resilient to spot removal and just like the opponent actually needs sweepers to kill you. But maybe it's the case that Jinnie Fay encourages us to build these decks with like, they're a little more fragile, right? Like if Jinnie dies, then we just don't have the firepower to win the game.
Yeah, I mean, a really good point, like my tokens, because Jinnie Fay were trying to cheat a little bit, so my tokens are Gilded Goose, Traben Inspector, the Prosperous Innkeeper. They're not actual creatures that get the benefit from, like you can't do me. The other thing too is, like the Lord, Regal Caracal is 5 mana, and I think, a Lord effect and token decks would make them really what can make them scary. But Regal Caracal costs 5 mana, and I got Disdainful Stroke twice, actually more like 4 times.
No.
But I was gonna beat the stupid Grixis Vampires deck. I was gonna slam Regal Caracal. They had 1 card in hand, 2 mana. I was like, there's no counter spells in Pioneer. Slam the Caracal, and the last card was a Disdainful Stroke, and it's like, wow, this is garbage.
Oof. Oof.
Like what? Like what is this? The Grixis Vampires playing Disruption? What the hell? I mean, Eldrazi Displacer was kind of interesting. I wonder if there's more to explore in that card. But yeah, this. It was sweet and it was fun, and I did get to have like some pretty busted Jinnie Fay turns for sure. But otherwise, I felt pretty underpowered, and 3 mana 3/3, no ETB effect is definitely no Winota.
Yeah, one of the lists that David drew up at the beginning of this project was a Pioneer list that ended up being red-green, and when he'd like added cards like Fable, like Chariots, I think he had one of the Rabble Masters in there, like it ended up looking exactly like these Winota lists, and it's turned out that in Pioneer that Combat Celebrant is just a better card than like Jinnie Fay, for example, when you're surrounding it with that specific core. And surprisingly, the Combat Celebrant decks have been doing like much better than I thought. But it's probably because they ask less of you. Like, they're not asking you to warp any of your card choices, whereas Jinnie Fay is asking you to play tokens decks, and as soon as we say that phrase, token decks, we're not in the top 2 or 3 tiers of any format. Like, there just is no tokens deck. So we have to draw from like a really underpowered pool of cards.
Yep.
For now, for the time being.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like if I had more time, I think Academy Manufactor would be like one of the more interesting ways you could go. Especially since you want Lowness anyways. Like Lowness and Manufactor go really well together. You can maybe, Jinnie Fay is kind of like a pseudo parallel Manufactor. That's probably what I would try again if I were gonna do it.
I thought about that, and then I backed off because it just felt like if I'm going to be playing a 3-drop that doesn't do anything the turn I play it, I would much rather have the Manufactor, right? Like,
yeah, but
I'll play both.
Yeah, that's the thing. You go for the redundant.
Well, yeah, but now you're talking about turn what? It's
turn 3, because then if you're on, you have Underworld Cookbook. You have these ways that that already do these kind of things.
So are you envisioning something that ramps out the manufactor, like, turn 2, or the Jinnie Fay turn 2, and then the manufactor turn 3, or something like that, and then goes for the explosive turn?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And actually, Moore drew up a list just like this, and I believe he was going to test it, but I don't know if he's had a chance to yet. It kind of looks like the Academy Manufactor time civ decks, where they do have the ability to like play a cookbook, discard the manufactor, unearth it on turn 2. Because a lot of their stuff, their good stuff is on 3 mana, they just end up playing unearth anyway. And I had tried a Naya version that had Collected Company to find like Chatterfangs, Academy Manufactors, Jinnie Fays. Like, you can do this in Modern, but the bar is higher in that format. So even there, it's like not totally clear if that's good. But I did leave my Naya League feeling like, I should have played Lonas instead of like Rocco Cabaret Cuter or whatever I was playing. But like it was definitely doable. Like I was actually doing the thing with Manufactor and Jinnie Fay, tap the cookbook, make 3 tokens, turn them all into cats. Like, that is like dealing with more powerful stuff, but it's not clear that that's better than the existing cookbook food manufacturer decks.
The other thing is I really want to try in these lists is now the 3-drop drop is getting so glutted, but Gift of the Fey, Fey Offering, the 2 and a green enchantment. If you cast a creature and a non-creature, you get food. Ardo, you get a food, clue, and treasure. I think like you get all 3 of them. And so just if you have that with Academy Manufacturer, that is 9. Like they do. It's kind of like on like Academy Manufacturer 5 through 8, which obviously intrigued me, but I've always been too cowardly and busy to do this. With Jinnie Fay 2, now you have those things. You have 12. We're just like Jinnie Fay. If you have once again we're gonna go to Dreamland here, but we're playing with Jinnie Fay, so we kind of need to exist in Dreamland to begin with. But if you have a Fey Offering down, and then you go next when you go Jinnie Fay into Mox Amber, that end of that turn you're gonna get 9. Assuming Jinnie Fay lives, you're gonna get 3/1 Vigilances. And the next turn, if you can find just something to do another kind of token with, now you swing for like 11 maybe. It's food for thought. You need 3 cards out and swing for 11. But once again, seems fun.
Yeah, this was the initial sort of approach that I was going to take. Was going to be like blue-green. I was looking at the manufacturer. The thing that I kept coming back to with manufacturer, though, besides the fact that I was slightly worried about getting 2-3 drops out, roughly the same turn or on adjacent turns without losing one of them, was that in a lot of these manufacturer decks, you actually want the treasures and the clues, because those are what enable you to keep going, right? Like, you start to make this proliferation of tokens, but if all of those end up being cats, unless you've hit that critical mass where you're going to kill them that turn, you're kind of in this weird spot, right? Because you were getting clues so that you could dig through your deck, and the treasures so that you could crack those clues. And now you're getting some cats, and if you only get 3 of those cats, you've done 6 damage maybe if they don't have blockers or they don't have removal, but you haven't really you haven't really taken over the game yet. And it seems like a lot of the manufacturer decks, it's like they go off and they are able to dig through the rest of their deck for the win con or whatever it is and like finish you off.
If you're, good points, but if you're digging through your deck and, because you have your 2 manufacturers and your stuff working, digging through your deck is not easy if you're just getting, like, even if you get 9, that's essentially just, or let's say if you get 9 of each, let's say you have the double. So if you only get 3 of each, that's still, essentially you only get to draw 1 card and you have 1 treasure left over. And that's with 9. If you have 18, sure, you get to, spend 8 treasures, draw 4 cards, etc. But 18 2/2 haste is, just like, that's just dead right there. 9 2/2 haste, if they fell swing and shock, they're dead. So I don't think you actually need to snowball like that.
But if you're in that situation where you're making enough cats with a single turn, you probably have 2 manufacturers and a Jinnie out, right? And I guess my point is, like, if you've got 2 manufacturers out, you're probably winning anyway. The Jinnie is just like a little cat icing on top.
I don't know if that's necessarily true, because even with 2 and making 9 a turn, once again, you only get to draw 4 cards. That's a lot, but you don't have any more mana sources. Like, if you have an Urza, that's a different thing. Or like, if let's say you're playing Kinnan, where now all your treasures tap for 2. But as probably one of the more experienced Academy Manufacturer players out there, unless you have a time civ or an Urza, 2 manufacturers is not always going to do it.
I definitely had Karn shut down like 20 food clues and treasures at once.
Oh yeah, there you go too.
The manufactured deck, it was very, very upsetting.
The anti-Karn tech, right? Just bash the Karn down with the cats.
There you go. I must be channeling my inner Zach or something, because you're the one that's advocating for the artifact nonsense, and I'm the one that's like, I can only go so far.
Yeah,
I have to play with the Ragavans, because the Ragavan might actually win me some games.
I mean, Ragavan's a nasty card. Every time, I'm just saying, oh, Ragavan is fun. And then, against Burn, her Ragavan attacks and hits like a lightning bolt for lethal. It's like, okay, I remember that. There's no card quite like Ragavan.
I actually that is what it came down to. I had all these different blue-green lists that I had drawn up and like sort of tinkered around with, and at the end of the day I was like, you know what? If I'm going to take this into a league, I've got to play the deck with Ragavan in it, because that one is more likely to win, just, surface.
Yeah, so one of the interesting things is that Jinnie Fay does let you choose whether you convert the token, so it's not necessarily a problem if you have the manufacturer down and you want to just keep doing that engine. And that's also true for the deck that I played, where I had 2 different token engines, or 2 different token payoffs. One was Jinnie and the other is Galazeth Prismari, which actually wants you to actually keep the artifact tokens, whether those are treasures or gingerbread cabin food tokens. This is the deck that I talked about probably 4 weeks ago. It was just so much fun I had to try it one more time. And if you recall, it's a 5-color deck where you're trying to use gingerbread cabins and like tireless tracker clues and Galazeth's treasure tokens to support Bring to Light, Prismatic Ending, just take advantage of Galazeth's mana making ability to have some really explosive turns. And I came like 1 game short of the 5-0. It was so much fun. Jinnie Fay is there as like a secondary thing to like also make gingerbread cabins good and make the tireless tracker a little more exciting, right? Like have Jinnie and tireless tracker down, play a fetch, crack it, and like suddenly you're just adding so much power to the board. So I really liked it. I just like built it with some obvious gaffes last time. Like I had the Shape Anew engine for Mirror Battlesphere, which was super sweet, but I accidentally included portable holes because I just forgot. Oof. So I just want to try it again, like without that blunder, and see if I could like make that happen a little more. Because like what I really, really wanted was to cast Jinnie, and then the next turn play Shape Anew or Bring to Light for Shape Anew, target like a food token or something. Have Shape Anew find my Mirror Battlesphere, and then when the Battlesphere comes in, it brings 4 mirrors with it, and I want those to like convert to cats, and I want to attack with 4 haste cats with Jinnie Fay in play for like a massive attack.
Wait,
so, like that was the dream.
But then I mean Mirror Battlesphere really? Then that's your payoff.
I like it. I support this.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean you can play something else, but like Blightsteel Colossus is just going to die to Solitude, so...
That's true. And I feel like you lose something, though, because you get the cats. Now the cats don't tap for it when it attacks, right?
Well, I mean, that's like the dream scenario. Obviously, you can just win with Battlesphere by itself. Like, my first league, I won 3 games with just casting Battlesphere normally.
Okay, alright, that's okay. Respect.
Is it Murktide? Players hate this. They can't stop the Battlesphere. But, yeah, so my league this time was just like me collecting screenshots of this specific interaction. Like, Jinnie Fay plus Shape Anew for Battlesphere was so sweet. I think I did it 3 times. And also had like another game where I just like, turn 3 Jinnie, turn 4... fetch land, get the gingerbread cabin, Galazeth, get another cabin, and just like suddenly I'm attacking for a lot.
Oh yeah.
When that happened, it was super sweet. But my overall takeaways were kind of the same as what we've been talking about. I think I mentioned when I tried this deck the first time that, man, opponents are like really rude. They just keep killing Jinnie. Like they don't even want to see what I'm trying to do. They're just like, just kill it. Oh, you're playing a gingerbread cabin? Trigger on the stack? Unholy Heat, just kill it. And it just dies so frequently in Modern.
What the hell?
Yeah, and something that Mord talked about with Davius Minimus a couple of weeks ago is like you can have your favorite sweet brew and get the 5-0 or close to it, and then can't win a match after that. And that was indeed the case with this one.
Oh no!
The deck was sweet, but like I kept losing like every single match, like so close, but fell short. I think I went 0-5. Oof. 2 of those matches, like I remember like punting away one of the games. Like maybe I could have squeezed a 2-3 out of it, but the cracks were showing, and the build was correct this time, but the power just wasn't there. Like, I would play longer games against, like, I played against a red-white Yorion Blink deck, I played against Obosh Red, I played against, like, a Planeswalker Fires of Invention taking turns deck, where it's just like, yeah, like, they're just playing cards too, we've all got value, and their stuff is a little better than mine. Like, they have more 2-for-1s than I do, and, like, if they just kill my stuff at the right time, if I don't exactly use my resources at the right time, I'm vulnerable to removal in ways that, you know, just filling your deck with MH2 elementals is not. So it's that power problem at the end of the day. Like, you end up having to play underpowered cards, and that leads to an underpowered deck in most scenarios.
I hope you're not suggesting that the Mir Battlesphere is an underpowered card.
Yeah, Dan.
No, actually, I think the deck would have been better if I just did not play Jinnie at all and just focused on Shape Anew for Battlesphere.
Oof.
Like, that was super sweet. Like, because you can actually do that pretty consistently with Gingerbread Cabins and just, like, build a totally different deck with Shape Anew. That's always been possible. The problem is that there isn't a good artifact to get.
Yep.
But Battlesphere was sweet, and maybe that's the answer that we've been looking for.
Oh yeah, I love it.
We need Smokestack in Modern. That's really, I think, the answer here. Make those Shape Anew decks good. We need Smokestacks. Tangle Wire. Print them into Modern, you cowards.
Well, the thing is, like, that's not fast enough. Like, it has to be like, okay, I'm paying 4 mana for this Shape Anew. It needs to, like, immediately swing the game in my favor.
Yeah.
And there isn't a card that does that right now.
Possessed Portal.
Yeah.
I mean, so Possessed Portal is not actually card disadvantage, because sure, you discard a card, but your opponent is the first one to skip their draw step, and then they have to sack them or discard. So it's like, it's actually not card disadvantage, and, like, it might actually end the game on the spot.
I think Possessed Portal is safest where it is, which is in the Karn Wishboard of, like, one very specific Prisintron deck. Anything else, I would not try it.
No, I mean, it might be a fine Shape Anew target, honestly. You know, just like your opponent can't draw any more spells. If they don't have the resources to win, like, then and there, they can't win. All right, you know, maybe this is what I'll try sometime. I will. This is the payoff we're looking for, Dan. Screw Bolas' Citadel. We're gonna Shape Anew into Possessed Portal.
Exactly.
You have token creators anyways, like Gilded Goose and Trader Inspector. Those are 2-for-1s with the portal anyways. All right, you know, I will show you all. I'll prove you all wrong. I will. I mean, I just want to see what happens if you drop, like, Possessed Portal on turn 3 or 4. You know, like, what happens? What is the game state? How do the games resolve? This actually sounds very fascinating and great data in general.
So people can't draw cards anymore, right?
Yeah.
And they just have to sacrifice permanents?
At least, yeah, sack and discard at least one thing per turn, and no more new cards.
So Gilded Goose is a prison with that? This is the theory?
Yeah, oh wow, you're right. Gilded Goose plus this wins the game.
Just zooming in closely on the goose. Fear the goose.
And it says players can't draw cards, right? Not that they skip their draw step. It's like brutal warning.
Okay. I mean, I don't really understand what it does, so I'm, like, afraid of ever casting it. But if that's actually what it does, it's worth trying.
No, honestly, it's pretty cracked. I've, like, done some pretty messed up things with that. Yeah, I've messed with it a lot. It's really, really, really powerful. Like, you get it down, and oftentimes the game is over. Like, normally you don't get it down until, like, you know, you're winning because you have, you know, Karn and then probably Urza to cast it or whatever. But also, you know, like, if you just want to, you know, on turn 3, there might be 3 lands in play, 1 to 2 creatures, like 4 or 5 cards in hand. Like, that's all, you know? You just need some good walls.
All right, well, that's not on the ballot.
Oh, wait.
That's not on the ballot for this month, but maybe.
I'm going to nominate it. Yeah, I'll nominate it for next month.
Oh, all right. Yeah, you can add it.
Oh, I could not.
Yeah, I guess you...
I mean, no, I don't know. There's enough. I'll do it for next month. Next month sounds better.
Okay, next time.
I'll vote for that.
Yeah, right. Just like, boom, what can we do? Just slam this on turn 3 and see what happens.
So yeah, the Gingerbread Galazeth didn't work out for me this time around, but it's still super sweet. And yeah, I would love to see that Possessed Portal brew.
Oh yeah.
Now, we do have a special guest who is actually not a guest, who is actually a host, joining us at the final hour, all the way from Buenos Aires, Argentina. He survived the internet outage, and he's here to tell us about his Jinnie Fay decks. It's Emmy Sagasti. Emmy, welcome.
Heyo, can I be a guest and a host at the same time? That's some intriguing controversies. How are you doing, everybody?
Hello.
Yo, what up? What up, more? Long time no see. Get your ass to Vegas. Let's go.
I'm fighting on the Vegas thing because the first turn I could get for a visa is October 2023. Because that's how Argentina bureaucracy works. So I'm fighting against that at the moment.
That sounds like an uphill battle. I don't know anyone who's managed to beat government bureaucracy in a one-on-one.
It's not a one-on-one battle, but it's a tough battle.
Forget the bureaucracy. Smuggle them in.
I guess just getting in via Canoe from Mexico. That's plan B.
Oh yeah, there you go.
You'll be here in time for the 35th anniversary.
Yeah, there you go.
That's good.
Around some time for the 35th anniversary, I might get there.
That's okay. 35th anniversary is next year, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Jinnie Fay. Besides Vegas, it's the second thing that matter. And let's just say I got zero luck with Jinnie Fay. I went ahead, I had two brews for it. One was more tokeny based, like the one that got the 5-0 by Meryn. And then the other was just crazy game object stuff.
Okay, so like green-white tokens, that's the MerynMoon 5-0.
Exactly.
The only 5-0 in Modern with it. And then...
A 4-color game objects that shouldn't even see the light of day.
Okay. Oh, good. So you did test that one. We were just talking about that.
Oh,
yeah. So I'm eager to hear how that went. All right. So which one do you want to start with?
So let's start with the tokens, which was just like the simplest one. It was quite literally just Celestia tokens. Hope Jinnie Fay works like a second sort of lord. And that one was not that bad. I got a 2-3, but got faced against combo thrice. And just, I'm not beating Oops and Neoform with tokens. Ever.
Nope.
There's no way. So it was a really uphill battle, but I got a 2-3. I did get to crush a Murktide player by just going Lingering Souls into Spectral Procession into Untouchable Virtue twice. Because they had no way of 2-for-1ing me to get a 1-for-1 even on any battle. Lingering Souls was just an uphill battle every single time, and they got like an 11-11 Murktide that just never got to connect. It was just getting held back by an army of spirits.
He built his own Mirror Battlesphere, guys. This is what I'm talking about. Mirror Battlesphere is the truth against... Is it Murktide?
No, I mean...
They can't stop the tokens.
I mean, you're totally right.
2 flashbacks and a cast of Lingering Souls is Mirror Battlesphere with extra steps.
Yeah, they can't beat 1-1 flyers, you know? Their only way to, like, beat 1-1 flyers is engineer explosives. I've actually found Psy to be kind of disgusting against Blue-Red Murktide, hilariously.
It is. I mean, I think I talked about this before, but when I started playing, Celestia Tokens was my first deck, because the deck at the meta at the moment was Sultai Shadow, and it had no way of hitting 3-1-1s. Because you didn't have access to the World Battle Rage even. So you just, like, flooded the board, and they were playing Shadows and Tarmogoyfs and Gurmags, and you're like, hit you for 4 in the air, block, hit you for 2 win.
So you mentioned that you played against 3 combo decks, and it seems like your strategy of play tokens, build a big battlefield, is just useless against them. So that was maybe not like Jinnie's fault per se, but the fault of the strategy as a whole?
No. It was just the unfortunate state of playing a tokens deck in Modern. It was more like playing a tokens deck without a plan B against combo or Tron is just gonna get you in that spot where, yeah, you can outgrind stuff like Murktide or Shadow, but when push comes to shove and you're facing, well, any combo deck or Tron, you're just gonna get crushed. You cannot beat a single Yuin. No one can.
Makes sense.
So yeah, the token build had that slight problem. Maybe I should have gone to black and try some, what's the name of this? Sideboard, Thoughtseize or such, or like, Necromancy? No, Necromancy is not the name, right? The mono black and Morrigo?
Necromentia.
Stay in the Mind, the Convoke one?
Necromantia.
But don't forget the one with Convoke.
Oh yeah, Stay in the Mind, the 4-mana one, but it doesn't get lands, right?
There's a Convoke one?
Yeah, there's a 4-mana, only 1 black peep Convoke one that I used to play back in my day.
It does not get lands. It says choose a non-land card, and then it's a cranial extraction for that.
Yeah, I think not stopping Tron is a bit of a serious downside. Or Balakut. But yeah, also worth testing because you can reliably cast it on turn 3 without using your mana. But yeah, besides that, then I went down the slippery slope of saying, if I can play tokens, I'm gonna play tokens, but no creature tokens. And that was a pretty big mistake on my part.
Really? I was thinking that would be the better build. But, how did you put the deck together?
I might have been too greedy on how I built it together because it was like this 4-color with... So let me open the deck list.
So I imagine we're talking about Academy Manufactor as like your big engine card, right?
But I also had stuff I shouldn't have, like Chatterfangs.
What's wrong with Chatterfangs? That's like a mini Academy Manufactor,
yes,
right?
That's
it adds one squirrel to every.
And then they had 3 of my favorite creature loanies.
Okay. The cryptozoologists, yes, that gives you a Jinnie Fay trigger right away.
Exactly.
I mean, this is all on plan.
Yeah, all coming together.
You're playing Asmo and Cookbook, I assume?
Yeah, and then I have an Earth, Gilded Goose, Ether Vial, Cookbook, Asmo, and 2 Oral Chaser Devil.
So how did this deck lose more? Doesn't make any sense. Sounds perfect.
You know what happens when you're playing Academy Manufacturer, you tap your Cookbook and you get Unholy Heated? Yeah, I played against 2 Borgtides and 1 4-color, and everything got removed on ETB. And because I didn't have 2 4-1s in the form of stuff like Lingering Souls, everything was like, oh, creature, Bolt. Oh, creature, Unholy Hit.
Yeah, this is my experience too. Like, these cards are so sweet, but they are better suited for Commander, where people will just leave you alone until you're ready to go off.
People will just ignore them because people in Commander would rather cry that they lost a game than put Lightning Ball in their hand.
Hot take from Mord.
I have played a bunch of Commander. I had a Commander-based games LCS. I know what I'm talking about. Commander players refuse to play spot removal.
Well, it's just a bad use of resources.
Exactly.
In a multiplayer
I mean,
game.
it's a 1 for 3. Like, its card disadvantage whenever you use a Bolt. But still.
So in your Manufacturer 4-color deck, like, was there a combo finish? Like, were you doing time civ, or were you just trying to convert game objects into squirrels and cats and dogs and win that way?
I was trying to win that way. Maybe time civ was the way to go, but the problem is...
Well, the problem is once you do that, you shouldn't really play Jinnie anymore.
Exactly.
Like,
If I'm going down that hole, I should be playing the Esper version from Spike.
so were you able to engineer any wins out of this?
Oh yeah, both were a 2-3, so nothing was like pathetically bad, it was just sad. Like, it wasn't like terribly 0-5 conceding to the void and never see the light again. It was more a subtle, why do I make this to myself?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is the shared experience that we all had many windows onto the same truth about Jinnie Fay. You know, it's partly what Brian said. The cards, the supporting cards are a little bit too weak right now. It's partly the dice removal thing where, like, Jinnie does not have an ETB and you really need to have that. She's like a little too unique, so if you end up building a perfect Jinnie deck, she ends up being like too important to the deck. And it's partly just like token strategies as a whole are underpowered, and I think Arun, here you described that Pioneer League. It's like, man, like your deck is full of the best token cards, but they're still underpowered.
That was the issue, yeah.
Yep.
The card was not bad, it just wasn't powerful enough as a peel around for the costs, for the decisions it made me made.
If it was a 2-mana card, it would probably be bonkers good.
Oh yeah, 100%. If this was a 2-mana... If this was a 2-mana 1-2, it shouldn't even be a 2-2, right? Like, I did the effect on a cheaper effect. Even alongside Ether Vial and better creatures that you can play around it, it would be better.
Yeah, if it was an enchantment, it would be great.
Also, 2-mana enchantment, I would just play that.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. That would actually right into that might actually be busted, honestly.
Or if it had, like, Ward 2, you know? Ward... Like, a tiny ward would be enough. I don't need, like, Ward 7, like the Hall of Giants, like Ward 3, like Hall of Giants, but maybe Ward 2, you know? Ward 1. Yeah. Something that at least really untempos your opponent.
Exactly. All right, well, we've tried. Tickets were spent. Tickets were not recovered.
Not even close.
That's how it works.
This is our task, and we accept it gladly. I had a lot of fun this month, both playing Jinnie Fay and just thinking about the card, and especially seeing the list that people in our Discord community came up with. So I consider this a success, even if the card itself was not successful in actually winning games. That's okay. We're just here to learn what we can.
Exactly. Just to see, someone had to lose the ticks so we could come to this conclusion.
Just doing my part to stimulate the MTGO economy.
Yes.
Someone has to lose the ticks so people can gain the ticks.
Exactly.
No, it's true. It's true. Totally true.
All right, so I think we're going to wrap it up here for Project Jinnie Fay, and that means we are wrapping up today's episode. But do not fear, Arun and Brian are not going anywhere because we are going to be back in just a couple short days with the next slate of nominees. We're kicking off our next monthly project. We have, 16 cards nominated?
Impressive.
By people in our Discord, and
I'm loving some. I'm taking my first look at them, and I'm in love, and I'm really easily bought because a lot of people are saying this is an easy buy on board, and they're right.
Exactly. His vote can be had cheaply, but what card will you vote for? Well, you have to wait and see. So tune in on Monday for that episode, and we'll see you next time. Deck lists for this episode can be found at our homepage, faithlessbrewing.com. And tune in on Monday for the 16 nominees for next month's featured card. If you would like to support the podcast and cast your vote for next month's project, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/faithlessbrewing for Discord access, bonus content, and more. That's all for today. Stay safe and we'll see you next time.